Thank you for coming. I hope you guys are having a wonderful time at Databricks. A lot to learn. I'm going to talk about for next 20 minutes one of the key topic. While as a data engineer, there's a lot of excitement that you go back with and love to do what Databricks and other environments enables you to do. Do your hands-on work and make things to life, right? Bring things to life. But what are the different challenges that you face as you started looking at beyond experimentation when you want to really make it happen in production? So how do you make sure that bring your business, your other stakeholders together? So that's some of the things we're going to talk about today. Starting with a very quick introduction. Myself, Rajesh. I lead the data and solution practice for North America across different industry. And what I learned from working with different industries, some of the industry, for example, healthcare as well as banking and financial services, they are highly reserved to adopt newer technologies. But surprisingly, I see with Gen AI, they're at the forefront of it. In fact, with 150 labs that we have implemented across different customers, 70% of my customers is financial services and healthcare. So that's an industry that continues to grow. So I'll talk about some of that. But next 20 minutes, we'll understand different persona that exist today, support, challenge with a obviously common objective to make things successful for the business. But how are they playing as a role in terms of either paving path for success, or it could be in a different version, whether challenging the path for the success. Second thing, we'll talk about insight to journey, how it happens. And then we'll talk about what we have been experimenting with different customers, starting from lab to finally taking them to production, what different challenges that we have seen, and how we continue to evolve in making things easier for taking things to production. First thing first though, when you look at a typical organization, and by the way, when I was building this slide, I realized there are different personas, there are hundreds of different personas, but I carefully chose these different personas to start with. For example, number one, CDO, Chief Data Officer, or CDAO, Chief Data Analytics Officer. Their primary role is what? To align the business strategy with the data and AI strategy. That's what their focus has been. Similarly, when you look at architects and engineers who are responsible for platform, their focus is more defense. They want to make sure their architecture is scalable, resilient, and it has a lot more governance aspect to ensure that nothing from data perspective or AI/ML perspective has been exposed in any fashion and form. So that's their focus when it comes to architects. Domain owners, especially in the current scenarios where data products, data mesh, data fabrics continue to evolve, the focus of the questions for them is why. Why am I reaching out? Why you guys are reaching out to me to do the job that you should be doing it? Like, what do you want me to make data available to you? Why do you want to make sure that I see some smiling faces, which is very great. My focus as a business is to grow a business, which is existing, or find new avenues for growing the business. But why are you asking me to make data available? So there's some of those aspects when it comes together, it becomes really challenging when it comes to data organization to make data and AI move to production. Now, when I look at how this persona comes into action, and I simplified this, I mean, there are many more opportunities out for the work, but number one, which is data and platform, their focus is continuously enable self-service features for data and AI. It could be simple as taking some foundational model from Databricks and others and enable them, certify them, and make it available in self-service fashion so that your business or the data and AI teams can continue to explore on it. The center, what you see is basically the self-service platform services, which is the domain team. Domain team, while you want to onboard them, you want to make a lot more self-service enablement. For example, BI. Now, there is shifting a lot more to AI. BI was democratized in a fashion so that the business can start, like for example, tools like Alteryx, ThoughtSpots. You would have heard many more tools. They're popular because of their democratization, ease of use of BI. In the similar fashion, they would, when you want them to be onboarded for AI, it has to have a self-service capability built into it. The last but not least, the CDO roles. CDOs are not responsible for data, but they are called Chief Data Officer, which is a funny thing. But primarily, CDOs are responsible to guide the platform team to build the capability which are priority 1 for the business, not the priority 2, 1, 4. So when I look at in such scenario and I look for a simple use case like demand forecasting, what would it look like in terms of data to insight journey? It starts with, yes, I want to do data wrangling, I want to acquire the data, I want to understand the data, I want to group the data, and eventually build the insight. But what do you get challenged with right away? I don't trust my data is the first question that business asks. Starting with need more data. It's a typical process that you have to go through. Business doesn't trust the model. You may be highly excited about the model that you built. You may trust your model, your confusion matrix, which tells you whether how much of it is trustable, is it 90% accurate, 100% accurate, so on and so forth. But how do you ensure that the business builds the trustability into it? That's another aspect that you get challenged with. Integration. Integration is critical. You can productionize your model, spit out the accurate results, but integrating back to your business continues to remain a challenge. So those are some challenges when it comes to data to insight journey. Beyond that, now you have the landscape. You have lakehouse, warehouse, fabrics, and whatnot. There are tons of options of technology which is available, which makes it further complicated. You have things like, how do I even make my data available? Should it be in lake? It should be in warehouse. It should be in cataloged, in Alations and others, different tools. Then comes variety of tool for consumption. Every single tool out there is offering you GenAI capability today, whether it is Copilot from Power BI, or it could be the self-service BI that's coming in from Tableau, and so on and so forth. Even ServiceNow, for example, has the tool available to basically evaluate and give you capability for bot-based capability to evaluate the data. So when we got onto the table and started looking at all of these issues combined together and did the design thinking, this was the number one thing that we came up with. I mean, there were a lot of use cases that we looked at it, but there were 3 customers very specifically where we wanted to change their aspects of productionization, because there were, I would say, 13 or 15 models that we built, which was really useful for production, but never made it to production. So there are 3 things that really popped out that we started experimenting with the customer. Number one is, don't call AI as one of the features of the platform, rather treat AI itself as a platform. What does it mean? It's a shift in the mindset to start with. If you look at my first diagram, one of the things that you talked about it, I don't even have data, or I don't trust the data. In those scenarios, can I convert them as a platform where I can generate synthetic data? So leverage the capability of GenAI as a platform so you can keep on building features on a given platform. So that's a shift in the mindset, which is AI as a platform. AI is not a component of a platform. Second one is, I may be sitting on multiple traditional models. It could be AI model and BI model, or it could be data models. How can I leverage my existing AI model, which may be in production, may not be production, to make it more relevant? Don't just rely on GenAI model to do magic for you. Bring things along, which is traditional AI and BI. And you'll be surprised to see that, take a Power BI report, throw it to an LLM model like Llama, and you'll start to see a lot more relevant results coming out of it. So certifying your existing assets is the second aspect, like bringing traditional AI onboarding. Third is, how do I build that trust? Let's talk about one other persona I talked about, domain owners. If I don't build AI as an application, I could be building wonderful model, but don't have an integrated application that is coming in. There is no visibility for the business. And when I talk about visibility of the business, right at the beginning, shift left exactly when you start evaluating, doing the data wrangling, doing the data quality checks, or doing the feature analysis. Work closely with the business with an application that we build. And we realized that out of all of those 3, number 3 was the most useful mechanism to onboard the users. We continue our further analysis after implementing this application to at least 3 different customers. We realized, how can you take it forward further? And this was the step 2 where we started looking at more of a foundry construct. The difference between 1 and 2, the critical aspects was, combining infrastructure or embedding infrastructure along with the AI/ML model. I talked about the platform aspect, but now going beyond the platform aspects where we work closely with NVIDIA, Dell of the worlds. So operating model is another aspect. So one was infrastructure, second was operating model, bringing people along, having the right set of operating model together so that now we know who is responsible for what, who is bringing in data, who is qualifying the data, who is integrating that AI model with the business. So bringing this pod structure together. Another key aspects that we try to transform is data and AI as a product. You would have heard data as a product, which is common. But one of the key features when you talk about data as a product is discoverability. How do I make sure my data plus the associated models, it could be Gen AI or legacy model, to make discoverability. So associating Gen AI for Gen AI model to make it more discoverable was the key adoption that we saw across the board. Second aspect is pre-built accelerators. As we started, I talked about 150 labs that we built. There were a lot of learnings. One of the key learning, for example, for one of our financial customers was certifying the data to begin with. A lot of the inbound emails that we're getting for settlement instructions, they had PII data built into it. It took us almost 3 months to even certify data so that we can use to train or embed our model. So that's one of the accelerators that we built for our customers. Said, okay, why can't we build that as an accelerators across our customers? So the idea was when you build the foundry, number one is onboard all these accelerators so that you can faster your journey for building your AI/ML models. The second aspect is integration. Integration of components for wrangling, integration of components for data sharing. For example, I talked about a product which is you can't share your metadata. For example, you want to make your model federation. How do you make them federated? To make it federated, you need to build the APIfications on top of it to make it available for others to consume. That becomes your accelerators, but accelerators now have to talk to each other from wrangling to APIfication. So that's a critical change that we brought it in as AI as a foundry. Moving on, when I look at what it has changed, we did further analysis before we come out to version 3.0. We realized what would a AI to insight journey would look like now. You saw the first cut of it where I had trustability issues, confidence issues and whatnot. As you see on the left hand side, I just didn't mention data. I combined that with data and events. One of the critical studies we found working with our customer is, it's not about just the data, but having the context to the data. When is this data originating? What is the relevance of it? As you try to shift more from having an AI to real-time AI, I need to know where it is originating from. So having data plus event combined together was a critical aspect. Then we change into focus areas. When you want to bring your business partners, CDOs, CIOs, and many more partners along, you need to shift two aspects of focus, which is macroscope, what you see on the top, which is the standards of you collect, connect, you wrangle, you build the feature analysis that every engineer does, every data scientist does. But if you see the bottom of it, which is telescope, we realize how do I build a roadmap? To start with a concept, I have to have a concept which gets registered, so it becomes a product. That concept now has to have multiple concepts come together, become a knowledge. So you integrate these different concepts together to build a knowledge. When you make knowledge, now make that knowledge discoverable. So instead of just specifying individual models, you're bringing concepts. Those concepts are getting attached to multiple different AI, ML, Gen AI, or data models together. That is becoming a knowledge now when you start to put them in the right order, call it as a graph model. And now you're converting into more data storytelling. Remember I talked about having the BI and AI together. What you're doing is as you start to club this together in a concept as a knowledge net should have a storytelling, otherwise you'll not be able to produce and publish something which is consumable by business. So storytelling as a feature is very important that we realize, and we build that for the foundry that I talked about earlier. That was the most popular feature as part of the foundry. Last but not least is building knowledge to remove misconception. There are a lot of misconceptions. There are misconceptions that is drawn as you try to build the knowledge. How do you continue to refine this knowledge? It cannot be accurate because it is human driven, machine driven and whatnot. So how you bring that feedback loop to continuously remove the misconception and improvise and trust your knowledge. So all of this together, how does it comes to life? We build this application together, we call the Foundry application, where when a user logs in, this is an interface that they get, which is highly configurable. What you see on the left is basically the value chains. I should be able to go and configure different business value chains that I have within my ecosystem. That is number one. Number two is what are my different data assets which is available, which is first party, second party, third party, and how do I consume them? It could be internal or external sources. It allows you to connect through APIfication. Number three is about certified models. All the trustable model that you have in place is where you go about onboarding number three, which is getting all your model repository which are certified with the industry, including Python libraries and whatnot. So the third is all about model governance. Four is about event management. Remember I talked about in the diagram, how do I bring my data and event together? So that's the focus. For example, I as a business user would only like to act upon it when an email arrives into my inbox. For example, if there's a weather alert, based on that weather alert, I would like to shift my inventory from a location A, which is plant A, which is on the south, to plant B. So I'm more interested in anything to do with modeling on that email which has arrived today, which is critical for me. So identifying that as an event, popping up on the interface, which is number 4, so I can act upon it. And what does that look like in the scenarios? So I pick up my event which has occurred. What does it do? Based on that event, which is an email which has arrived, now it is recommending, it is summarizing what you see on the right top, it is summarizing that email and guiding the business to act upon different business domains. And what it has at the expense is multiple different models that I can leverage, saying for this given model, where do I want to integrate that in my value chain? I want to integrate this in my value chain for supply chain. So integrate that email with the supply chain domain. And you say, okay, it will recommend multiple data that is associated with that event. You can pick the recommended, or you can pick or extend your models. You can integrate them together, which is your data models. So you have the domain model, which is your value chains. You have the event. You have a data model. You combine together. What you get is a mind map. In the fancy world, there's a lot more things like ontology and many things. But we're not mature to ontology yet, that you may have heard from Palantirs of the world and all. But that's a different concept, very, very highly mature, I would say. This is simple and straightforward, where it's more of creating a graph model. And by the way, there are a lot of LLM models which are called graph model, and we had wonderful success in combining GenAI model with the graph model to have the lot more accurate results. Exploration is on the right, where you can take different actions. And what you see on the data traceability. Data traceability is another important aspects to build that trust with the business, where, for example, the LangChain model, it gives you all chain of commands that an LLM model will go through to give you the accuracy of the results. By looking at that, what we're able to do is build trust with the business along with the IT. So although this self-service tool did wonderful things, so sum it up, what did we learn in last 20 minutes is, number one, engage different persona. So have an app, have a visualization AI component to it. Consider data plus AI as a product, make sure it is discoverable. Enable the Foundry. Don't forget your infrastructure. Don't forget the governance and security. Bring them together. Don't forget the different assets, different models, accelerators that your organization would have built it. Identify the employees and customer from the engagement. Like email is a wonderful tool, but if you don't integrate into your ecosystem, it's of no use. The last but not least is stitch business knowledge graph along with GenAI, so that you have your ecosystem brought together as a overall architecture. That concludes my session. If any questions, I'll take it now. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.